Hey, what's going on, everybody? Pete Branscombe here. We're live. Probably no one's going to be watching. That's all good because I didn't put anything out here. I never do put anything out. I just kind of start. I just wanted to read. Judges. You can watch this later if you want, because I'm going to get started. It's 11:44. It's 11:44. Judges chapter 6, King James Bible. I'm going to read about Gideon. And I'm going to do a little bit of commentary while I'm doing it. Hey, Gary Galuska. How's it going, buddy? Is that how you say that name? Galuska? Galuska? Good to see you, man. I seen you in the comments, and I think probably where I started seeing you was on ECC's Sunday morning sermons. I think that's where I originally seen you. Close enough. Right on, man. If it makes you feel any better, I barely pronounce my own last name properly. Peter Branscombe. Peter Branscombe. Peter Branscombe. Peter Branscombe. Just depends on how much of a mumble I got going on. Oh, 4 people in there. Nice. Getting started here, guys. I'm going to read from the book of Judges, chapter 6. Book of Judges, chapter 6, the story of Gideon. Oi, vey, camo, where have you been all my life? Where have you been all my life, you little schvicta? You little goy boy. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. 7 years they were delivered into the hand of Midian. Okay, just like, there's going to be 7 years that the world is delivered into tribulation. Okay, are we in that tribulation right now? I don't know. We'll find out when the man of sin is truly revealed, right? Fritz Bar, how you doing, buddy? Good to see you. This is an impromptu stream. I wanted to do it, but I've been down the last couple weeks. I think it was all the Christmas chocolate. I was good for like the following week after Christmas. I didn't eat a pile of crap or nothing over Christmas. And then it was like, there's one night where I fell victim to the chocolates. And then once I hit that slippery slope, it was like downhill for a week and a half where I would just... Oh, it's bad. Your metabolism slows down. I'm like woofing chocolate down at nighttime before bed. I'm falling asleep on the couch, and I'm waking up at like 1:30 in the morning. I'm like, I walk to the cupboard, and I go and I friggin' dig out like toffifees, just friggin' ping them out of the friggin' tray, just popping toffifees, chocolate covered almonds, friggin' Lindors. Whew. Those things, they just melt, right? Bad scene. I got off the chocolate though. I'm off the chocolate a couple days, boys. I'm off the chocolate. Makes a big difference. Like I'm telling you, I was down. And I'll say this before I get going on this. I was down and out, and last night I friggin' couldn't fall asleep, and I got down on the living room floor. I'm gonna say it. I got down the living room floor, and I like laid face down on the floor, like just maybe like my hands kind of like this, and like laid down on the floor face first, and I just like, I was just praying, right? Praying to God, and like asking like, God, what are you doing with me here? Like, I'm in one of these stages where it's like, what am I supposed to do? Where am I supposed to go? Am I doing the right thing? Am I leading people astray? Am I doing the work that you would have me do, right? And those times, it's funny how God like begins to like put things into your head, and he begins to kind of send you some relief. But he didn't send me complete relief last night when I was praying. He did a little bit by showing me a couple things, but the relief really came this morning. Yeah, having a week like that, brother, it sucks, doesn't it, Gary? It's you don't know if you're coming or going. You don't know your right hand from your left hand, right? And you feel like, where's God at? Is he abandoned me? And then oftentimes it's really us that's kind of turned ourselves away from him, right? We've turned our face away from him, so he's turned his face away from us for a little bit, right? Until we, go back to him. And the story of Gideon is much the same. But just to finish this personal story, I got up this morning. I got up late because I was wide awake until about 2 o'clock in the morning. Couldn't fall asleep. I went up to bed and laid there for a little bit, and I'm like, yeah, I'm getting up. I can't stay in bed. Can't fall asleep. So I went downstairs, and I thought about coming down to the basement here and doing a workout. But I'm like, no, I'm not doing that. If I get into a workout at that point in time, I'm not going to get to bed till like 3:30, because after I'm done with workout, I'll be right jazzed up, right? Jazzed. And I won't be able to sleep at all. So, needless to say, I didn't do the workout. Eventually, I fell asleep. Eventually, I moved from the floor and back up onto the couch, and eventually, I ended up falling asleep. So I got up this morning, and it was like I was going to be late for work. Took the girls to school, and came back, got my coffee, headed on into work, slowly but surely. But while I was making my coffees, I was just looking on BitChute, and I seen a Richie from Boston video. Hey, YouTube, it's Richie from Boston. Like, share, subscribe, or don't. See if I care. And I don't know what everybody thinks about Richie from Boston. Richie from Boston's from the East Coast, so he's got that whole character about him. So it seems like it's like fake, right? Like he's putting on a show, but he's from the East. That's how it is, right? There's characters all over this side of the continent, right? And I always like Richie from Boston. He's been around for quite a while, and he gets a hard time from a lot of people, but I don't know. He seems like an honest individual. At very least, he's pretty blue collar, so I can relate to him. But he was talking about the exact same thing. He was talking about how in the last little bit, like, he's like, I don't know. I haven't been hearing from God. Like, I don't know what's going on, what God wants me to do, right? Talking about the exact same thing, right? The trials and tribulations, the burden of the word of the Lord, right? The burden of, knowing you have a task, but not really knowing how to implement it. RFB, Days of Noah, and Nicholson 68. Nicholson 68, was that Nicholson 97 at one point in time? Or was he like just a bunch of different ones? Nicholson. I know I've heard of Nicholson, but was it only 68? Was it only 68? I read 1st and 2nd Thessalonians, and it really brought me out. Yeah, that would. Yep. Reading the Bible, praying to God, that stuff will always bring you out. It really calms a person down when they're in those states, right? It brings them out because it kind of takes you out of your own kind of little bubble that you got yourself in, and it gives you some perspective, right? Some godly perspective on things. So let's get into reading here, because I got to get going to bed soon. But this is going to be a little bit, probably. So the children of Israel, if I'm rubbing that, sorry guys if it's making noise. And the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian 7 years. Okay, they did evil. So when we do evil, we are delivered into the hand of our enemies. The children of Israel, when they did evil in the sight of the Lord, when they forgot the Lord their God, when they left off from loving the Lord their God with all their mind, their heart, and their soul, when they leave off of doing that and then do evil in the sight of the Lord, do all the things that God told them not to do, right? Then the Lord sends an oppressor on them, okay? So Judges, okay, the book of Judges. So that's before there was before there was any king in Israel, okay? There was no king in Israel. It was the line of judges that kind of took care of Israel, right? Basically, it was a cycle, wash, rinse, repeat, where at the end of the book of Joshua, right, Joshua led them through the conquest of Canaan. They destroyed a lot of their enemies, but they didn't quite rout them all out. So whoever was left in the land, they dwelt among those people, and those people dwelt among them, right? So Joshua was kept strong all the way until he died, right? He was a man of God and a great warrior, okay? And Joshua, when he died and all the men of his generation died, the next generation, just like what happens today, they forgot all the things that the Lord had done for them when they brought them out of Egypt, when they led them through the wilderness, and when he brought them into the promised land. They all never seen that. They didn't know all of those stories. They didn't. They forgot about it. They could have went and read about it. They could have, heard about it, but they didn't care. They wanted to do what they wanted to do, just like every new generation does, right? They want to rebel against the former generations. They want to strike out on their own, right? And you got to think about it. Joshua, okay? Joshua was around before they wandered in the wilderness for 40 years. Okay? Joshua was around when they went into Canaan as spies. He was just a young man. Okay? But he went into Canaan, him and Caleb and the other 10 spies, and they scouted out the land, and they seen that there was giants in the land. They seen that there was great walled cities, and the inhabitants were giants, and we looked like grasshoppers to them, and we felt like grasshoppers to them, and the land swallows up the inhabitants. It's such a plentiful land. And so the 10 of them, they said, there's no way that we're going to be able to beat these people, right? There's no way we can go against them, right? They're great and strong and mighty, and we are few and don't have anything near the kind of weaponry that they got. But Joshua and Caleb, they said, well, we got God on our side, so he brought us out of Egypt, and surely he can, deliver these people into our hands. But, they said, right? And so because of their denial that God would help them, because they quickly forgot that God brought them out of Egypt with a high, hard hand, okay? Because that was forgotten, God punished them and said, you guys are going to wander in the wilderness for 40 years until that generation of doubters dies off, okay? So 40 years happened. They were in the wilderness. That generation died off, and when that generation was done, then God said to Joshua, okay, it's time to cross over. It's time to cross over and go and take the land that I have promised to you and your fathers, right? These are all, he gave a list of all the peoples that were in the land, and he said, you're to go in there and you are to utterly destroy all the inhabitants. Why? Because I've said this before in other videos, and it says clearly in the Bible that when the children of Israel were in Egypt at that time, that there was still a 400-year period allotted to these people to have a space to repent of their wicked ways. But instead of repenting, right, their, what's the word that's used? The iniquity of the Amorites had not yet been fulfilled. And what was that? Well, they were worshiping all kinds of gods and goddesses and sacrificing children and, giving into all kinds of depraved sex magic and bloodlust rituals and all the pagan practices of old, right? They were worshiping the gods from before the flood and after the flood. So they were told to go in and utterly destroy them, kill them all, just wipe everybody out, don't save any of them, right? But obviously they didn't end up killing all of them. They didn't end up wiping them all out, right? And so God said, okay, well, you didn't wipe them all out, so they're gonna live amongst you, right? But they did take out a lot of guys. So anyways, long story short, Joshua, he's like end of his life. He gives a final kind of, pep talk to everybody. He dies. The next generation quickly forgets God and goes after their own lusts and begins worshiping the gods of the land, doing all the things that they were told not to do specifically. Okay, so that is the evil that they did in the sight of the Lord. And in the book of Judges, this is where you have this cyclical these cyclical events, okay, where they continuously, one generation loses sight of God, they do evil in the sight of the Lord, God brings an oppressor after them. They call out to God, they cry out to him, they repent, and God sends them a deliverer from amongst their people, okay? Delivers them from the enemy is destroyed or, kicked out or what have you, subjected onto them. And then the children of Israel live in peace. They have prosperity. They do well for a time. And then the next generation comes around and then they fall back into the same pattern. It's no different than what happens today, right? It's just like when we talk, it's like the World War II meme with the guys, they're on the landing crafts getting ready to storm the beaches of Normandy, right? And it's like they had the picture, right? And they're like, yeah, this is for tranny story hour. Right? We can't wait for all this degeneracy to be brought in. Hurrah! Right? That's not what they fought for. But today we'll reference World War II and Nazis and all this stuff, but yet we won't even realize the actual sacrifice that was, given by these men, right? They won't acknowledge what the battle was over, but instead we get lost in all this, Nazis tried to kill all the Jews kind of thing, right? And somehow all white people are Nazis, even though it was whites against whites, right? Europeans against Europeans, right? American European stock, Canadian European stock against Europeans, right? And they fought for something, which was, ultimately it was a giant occult ritual. But those that fought in that battle, they did not fight for Tranny Story Hour. They did not fight for feminism. They did not fight for all the stuff that we see today, right? They didn't fight for Hollyweird, right? They didn't fight so that, kids could wear masks and everybody could be injected with a experimental clot shot, right? So that's what ends up happening. Every generation after, they quickly forget, right? If we don't remember, right, we forget. And if we forget, then we make up our own stuff, right? We start straying away from the old ways. And that's what we've done. Just as the children of Israel did, just as time and immemorial has happened in history. And the hand of Midian prevailed against Israel, and because of the Midianites, the children of Israel made them the dens which are in the mountains and caves and strongholds. So the Midianites prevailed against Israel, and because of the Midianites, so they began to hide out in the dens which are in the mountains and the caves and strongholds. So they really were in fear of the Midianites, and they were basically living like hermits and stuff, right? They couldn't live out in the open. Why? Because the Midianites were coming in and they were just basically stealing all their crops and stealing all their animals and killing people and robbing and pillaging and stuff like that, right? They're basically acting like Vikings, right? And so it was when Israel had sown that the Midianites came up, and the Amalekites and the children of the east, even they came up against them, right? So everybody was just coming in and abusing them, just pouring in and abusing the children of Israel, right? They did evil in the sight of the Lord. And so God's saying, here, I'm going to let these people come and abuse you for a little bit. And then maybe you'll think about what you used to have. And then maybe you'll come back to me, and then maybe you'll go back to the old way, right? But there has to be a bit of suffering before people begin to understand that, right? It's almost like today, right? There has to be a bit of suffering, especially in a population that has become so soft and so complacent, right? There has to be a whole lot of suffering take place in order for people to wake up. And I think those chickens have come home to roost, so to speak. Yo, Armchair, how's it going, buddy? Miss Maskless, how you doing? Good to see us. Good to see us. I can't believe it was before Christmas when I did that stream, Christmas Eve. That's how long it's been since I did a stream on my own. I've been doing the Sunday sermons on East Coast, but he got banned there one Sunday, so he's been basically, we do the stream and then he puts it on Rumble kind of thing, right? I'd like to download it from Rumble and put it on my channel. There's a downloader, I just haven't done it yet. Download those videos and then put them up on here, maybe on my channel, and see if they don't get banned. Because the only thing that I've ever got banned for is talking about face diapers, masks. They hate when I talk about masks and say masks are stupid and they're killing you. They don't like that. They don't like it. So don't say it. Don't say that the masks are hurting you or hurting anybody. Don't say that. They do not like that. Okay? I'm not saying it. I'm just saying that YouTube does not like it when you say that masks are gay and fake, or fake and gay, however you say that. It's like stream cut. That's how I lost my job in 2019. The mask? Yeah, I lost one of my jobs because of the mask too. I've got my main job still. Haven't had to worry about the mask. Sorry about that, Eve. That sucks. That's really fake and gay. I lost one of my jobs due to that. Lost another job due to the jabberoni. And my main job, I've still got that. Don't have to do this. Haven't had to do that either, which has been good. Really appreciative of that. And thank the Lord that that's the case, because the wife, she obviously lost her job because of the, right? So, where was I at? So, these multiple people groups, they're coming up, had to fight for mine, but still working here. Nice, Miss Mask. It just depends on where you're working, right? Like, in my job, I was able to basically put it out there very early on that I wasn't going along with it, right? And I was very adamant about it. And so basically, they just said, we're not going to bother with that. We ain't going to bother with that. You know, get it if you want to, but we're not going to enforce it. Why? Because I do jobs that other people don't want to do. I do jobs that people don't like to do. So they don't really want to get rid of me because of that, because it's going to be hard to get somebody to do some of the stuff that I do. Okay? Not because I'm super smart or super talented. It's just because I have abilities. So, and patience. Wouldn't want it any other way. So, you have these different people groups coming to abuse the children individual, just like we have all these bureaucracies and governments and companies, corporations and media groups and, you know, so-called friends and family and whatnot that are coming to try to abuse us, right? And try to coerce us and trying to get us to do all these things and taking things from us, right? Trying to take our very, you know, our incomes away from us, trying to take our abilities to go places and do things, right? And have fun and enjoy life, right? Not that I like to, you know, flouse around in the world and everything like that, but I like to be able to do some of the basic things without, you know, having to run into a friggin' person that's gonna be like, sir, do you have a mask, or do you have your passport? It's like, So frustrating. Obviously, the children of Israel had it a lot worse than we've got it, right? We're in this like soft, pansy totalitarianism right now. Like it's so weak and pathetic. There's hardly any enforcement. It like the enforcement is the fact that we are not doing anything about it. Right? Like I can't tell you how many times I've run into RCMP, okay, out and about, usually at the grocery store. And I'm not masked up or anything like that. It might be because I'm a Fed. Nah, just kidding. Run into an RCMP at the grocery store. I've done this like 6 times, 7 times, and they don't say nothing. Now, why is it? They got their mask on, but they don't say nothing? Why? Because it's not law. It's not lawful, and they ain't looking to enforce it, right? So, and these aren't, it's not the same cop every time. Like, I'm running into different cops constantly. None of them ever say anything to me. They don't even give me the stink eye. They don't do nothing. Right? So, stuff like that, to me, signals that there's more people on our side than what we believe. Right? There's more people that don't want to do this than what we think, right? But the fact of the matter is that they're in their position. They don't know what to do or how to go about it. I don't know. I can't explain it exactly, because to me it's like, if you don't want to do something, well, then you don't do it, right? So I wish some of these other people that, aren't looking to enforce would just, stand up and let's stop the shenanigans. Hey, Lee Stewie, how you doing? Good to see ya. Popping over from Super Conspiracy Thursday. Good stream tonight. Good stream tonight with the boys. Matt was on point. Definitely had a lot to say. He definitely has done a lot of thinking in this last week, I would say. Oh, what did I just do? I just messed my stuff up. There we go. So we have all these people that are abusing us right now, right? Oh, we're just innocent victims. But are we? Are we innocent victims? Or have we at some point in time in our lives done evil in the sight of the Lord? As a country, have we not done evil in the sight of the Lord collectively? Like, we might not be part of it, but our country that, is what we are collectively known for is promoting pedophilia. Well, not officially yet, but basically promoting LGBTQRSP2, right? They're promoting all sorts of degeneracy and drug and alcohol abuse and anti-family, anti-patriarchy, anti-God, anti-white heterosexuality, anti-woman, anti-anything that's good and wholesome and godly. Okay? So how did it get that way? It didn't just start that way, right? These people didn't just, come in and just flip this all at once. This had to take place over a period of time. Just like what I'm talking about here in chapter 6, right? It wasn't just, and the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and the Lord delivered them into the hand of Midian. Well, it doesn't just mean that one day they did evil and then God delivered them into the hand of Midian, right? This is over the course of time. It's just putting this in a one sentence, right? They forgot about what God had done for them. Then after they forgot about what God had done for them, they went out, left to their own devices, and went out whoring after the nations. They wanted to be like the nations. They wanted to be like all the pagans and all the other peoples of the different lands that were doing all this stuff that was promoted as being cool and hip and, something we're just experimenting with this new way, right? Because this old way's lame. Your old way's lame, Dad. We don't want to be like you, Dad. So these people encamped against them and destroyed the increase of the earth till thou come unto Gaza, and left no sustenance for Israel, neither sheep nor ox nor ass. So these people were just coming in and they're just scorch earth in the place, right? They're just scorch earth in it. They were like, they weren't even, they were taking stuff, but mostly they were just wrecking it. They were just destroying it. Like what are they doing now? What are they doing now in our country, right? In North America? They're taking stuff for themselves, they're enriching themselves, but they're playing this self-destruct game where they're destroying everything, right? They're destroying the earth, they're destroying the crops, they're destroying agriculture, they're destroying any increase of the earth, right? They're basically, what have they done? The crops have been plowed under in the last couple of years. How many animals have been culled in the last couple of years, right? All because of, the Green New Deal and, saving the earth and climate change and so on and so forth. So they're destroying the earth. They're destroying any increase, any sustenance that we have, right? They don't want to allow us to be able to grow our own food. They don't want to allow us to have our own animals, our own produce, or anything like that. At one point in time in New Brunswick, most people had a small little farm. You know how many farms were in New Brunswick? Like just even 20 years ago, okay? Right now, I think there's like 100 farms. We'll say 100, okay? So 100 farms. About 15 years ago, there would have been like 300 farms, okay? And 30 years before that, there would have probably been about double that. And then think about before that, right? There would have been probably triple that. Because everybody had some cows, some goats, or some pigs, and some chickens and stuff like that. And they all had their own produce and whatnot. And they sold milk, and they sold eggs, and they sold cream, and they sold butter, and they sold, like, I'm from Cumberland Bay, right? And I remember growing up, and I remember out in the lawn, there being an old creamer sitting there as basically a lawn ornament that used to be used. And my mom talking about when she first, her and Dad got married and she moved into the house, like, there's this old stapler that's been in the house for years. And she said, I remember that stapler has been there since I came here. They used to use that to staple the labels for the cream and the butter and stuff like that. Like, everybody did stuff like that. They had produce, sold produce, they gave produce, right? Like, everybody had a plot, and everybody was pretty much self-sufficient. And if you didn't have that much, well, there was plenty of people around that had stuff, right? That you could get stuff from. You didn't have to have a giant supermarket. You didn't have to have all these big local centers, right? Because everybody had stuff, and you didn't have to go way down the road or drive to the city or anything like that, right? Because you had everything in your own town. Back when towns were actually something, right? Back when Havelock, and when Chipman or Minto, or any number of these areas in New Brunswick, these rural areas that are just small, basically shut down towns now, they used to be booming at one time. They used to be bumping. There was no being ashamed of where you were from back then, because there was all kinds of stuff going on. Would have been awesome. And when I was younger, it was basically the tail end of any of that stuff. All that stuff was on the way out. And our generation was like, we got to get out of here because there ain't nothing. There ain't nothing here. Communism. They love to destroy everything. They love to kill, rape, and destroy. They love to have everybody just want God, government, right? That state. Just worship the state, you bunch of bigots. So, and Israel was greatly, I'm never going to get through this the way Get off track, eh? How's the chat doing? Uh-oh. Top chat. Live chat. There we go. Are you describing a functional, non-biased community? Sounds glorious. Shaboogala. How you doing, buddy? Small communities helping other small communities. Exactly. Since people with the jab can still get it too, what's the point of a test? Fritz Bar, there was never any point of the test. Right? That's the whole thing, eh? Like the test and the masks, right? Like they are the gateway to the jabberonos, right? The jabinis, the diapers, and the non-tests, right? Were the gateway to the jabs. So, and Israel, for they came up with their cattle and their tents, and they came as grasshoppers for multitude. So it's just huge groups of these people coming in. For both they and their camels were without number, and they entered into the land to destroy it. So just like a bunch of locusts, right, coming onto a field. Have you ever seen what locusts can do to a field, to a bunch of crops in a short period of time? They just move like a unit through, and they just eat everything once they get going. Once they get going, they just wreck everything. Just destroy it. And they entered into the land to destroy it. And Israel was greatly impoverished because of the Midianites. And the children of Israel cried unto the Lord. So once they were, inundated with, refugees from all over the world who are coming on welfare and not having to take part in the whole experiment. Once, they taxed everybody into the ground and impoverished everybody, and took everybody off the land and took everybody's ability to be self-sustaining. They impoverished everybody with comfort, right? So because of the Midianites, and the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord. And it came to pass when the children of Israel cried unto the Lord because of the Midianites, the children of Israel, who did evil in the sight of the Lord. But now they're understanding that they're being afflicted, and they have no other choice but to cry out unto the Lord, right? And see, at least they're crying out unto the Lord, whereas we're such a stupid generation that we're too proud to even cry out unto the Lord. Well, what's praying going to do about it? What's calling on God going to do about it, right? That's what so many people today. Well, praying, yeah, we need more than prayers. We need more than prayers, people. We need action. I'm holding a sign. Not to get on anybody that holds signs or anything like that. It's just first thing came to my head. So, and it came to pass when the children of Israel cried out unto the Lord because of the Midianites, that the Lord sent a prophet unto the children of Israel. Here's a prophet coming in. Oh, and you bet the prophet, he's going to say some good soft words to the children of Israel to comfort them, right, in this time, right, and tell them, oh, you don't worry, guys, it's okay. We just got to be nice and friendly to these people that are trying to destroy us, and everything will be okay, okay? It's just 2 weeks, and we'll be out of this, okay? But don't get mad, don't get upset, don't self-reflect and think that you did anything wrong. Don't worry about a thing. We'll get through this, okay? Is that what the prophet's going to come and say? Let's see what the prophet says, verse 8. So the Lord sent this prophet, okay, unto the children of Israel, which said unto them, thus saith the Lord God of Israel, I brought you up out of Egypt and brought you forth out of the house of bondage, right, the house of Pharaoh, right, because what happened there? They were great in the land of Egypt when Joseph was in power, but once Joseph died, the next generation of Egypt, well, guess what? They forgot about Joseph. They didn't know anything about him. So all they could see was a bunch of Hebrews rising up in number, and they're thinking, John, we got to do something about these people. We got to do something about these white bigots. And I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians, and out of the hand of all that oppressed you, and drave them out from before you, and gave you their land. Okay? I delivered you out of the hand of the Egyptians. 1. And out of the hand of all that oppressed you. 2. And drave them out before you. Drove them out, right? Because God went before them and fought for Israel. Okay? Yes, they did battles, right? Yes, they fought enemies, but there's also times where God literally went before them and destroyed their enemies. Okay? You got to read that stuff to know. There's times when God literally fights for them, and there's time when God says, be of courage and go, right? So you got to understand that there's times when God's going to do the fighting for you, and there's times when God expects you to hold up your part of the deal too. Okay? It's a two-way street. So when I said unto you, I am the Lord your God, fear not the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell, but ye have not obeyed my voice. Fear not the gods of secularism, right? Fear not the gods of this world, right? Fear not the pagan gods. Fear not the atheist God haters. Fear not all of the rampant LGBTQRSTP3, right? Don't fear any of these people, right? And their gods. Don't fear what the media is saying to you. Don't fear this virus, right? Don't fear all this fear porn, okay? I've delivered you up until this point. I'm going to deliver you again, right? So, fear not the gods of the Amorites, in whose land ye dwell, right? Because they went into the land of these people that dwelt there who had all their gods, and God destroyed them. And those gods couldn't do anything to protect those people, right? Those gods of wood and stone that can neither see nor hear, okay? But ye have not obeyed my voice, okay? I did all this stuff, told you not to fear, but yet you have not obeyed my voice. And there came an angel of the Lord, and sat under an oak, which was in Ophrah, not the goddess of Ashtoreth, Oprah, but Oprah in the Bible, the good Oprah, that pertained unto Joash the Abiezrite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. So the prophet came, delivered that message, like, you guys are in trouble because you didn't obey my voice. I delivered you out all these lands from all these peoples, from all those that oppressed you, from out of the house of bondage, but you didn't obey my voice. Okay? So then it's going ahead here now, and it's basically that thing happened with the prophet, and now it's like next scene, it's talking about Gideon. You see this picture of Gideon. So there came an angel of the Lord and sat under an oak, which was in Ophrah, that pertained unto Joash the Abiezrite, and his son Gideon threshed wheat by the winepress to hide it from the Midianites. Okay, so they were basically doing some underground foraging. And the angel of the Lord harvesting. And the angel of the Lord appeared unto him and said unto him, the Lord is with thee, thou mighty man of valor. So he's calling Gideon a mighty man of valor, right? Gideon is just a young man at this point in time and hasn't fought or done anything, okay? But this angel's telling him he's a mighty man of valor. And Gideon said unto him, O my Lord, if the Lord be with us, why then is all this befallen us, right? Why is God doing all this? If God is for us, right? Because, you hear somebody, preaching or talking about the Bible, talking about God, and to say, hey, if, God is for us, then who can be against us? God is with you if you follow after him. And then you look out in the world and you're like, really? Is God really for us? Because look at the condition. Look at the situation we're in. Is God really for us, right? So why is all this stuff befallen us? And where be all his miracles which our fathers told us, saying, did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord hath forsaken us, and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. So you think about this. So Gideon's like a remnant of people that didn't forget the Lord, that didn't do evil in the sight of the Lord. When it says that the children of Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, it doesn't necessarily mean that every child in Israel, every person in Israel was doing evil, right? But the collective was. But there's always a remnant, right? In order for God to bring up a judge, right, who he selects, there has to be a remnant kicking around. There has to be some good men and women around that God is going to choose from. Just like amongst us, there is a remnant, right? In Canada, as much evil is befalling us, there is a remnant here in Canada. There's a remnant in the United States. There's a remnant in Australia. There's a remnant in England, right? There's a remnant in Zimbabwe, right? I don't know. Zimbabwe's being afflicted with the COVID stuff or whatever, but you understand what I'm saying. There's a remnant, okay? Wherever the Lord's people is, okay, wherever the Lord was at one point in time, you can guarantee that there's a remnant of people that still hold to God and his word, right? We're reading, okay? So just this is what he said. So did not the Lord bring us out of Egypt? Or sorry, and where be all his miracles which our fathers told us, saying, did not the Lord bring us up from Egypt? We're talking just like Gideon right now, and talking about, like, you know, where's all these miracles that our fathers told us about, right? Like, because we had to learn about God from somebody before us, right? We didn't just get the Bible, right? We didn't just get God's word. We just didn't just get any of the information or know any of the stories. Somebody had to tell somebody, who had to tell us, who then had to tell you or me or whoever, right? It had to be passed down somewhere. There had to be a remnant, okay? And this is the case of this remnant, Gideon being that chosen of the remnant. So did the Lord not bring us up from Egypt? But now the Lord hath forsaken us and delivered us into the hands of the Midianites. I know I repeat some of this stuff, guys, when I'm reading and whatnot, right? But I just get off topic, and so I got to go back and read. I apologize if that offends you, but if, you know, it is what it is. And the Lord looked upon him and said, go in this thy might, and thou shalt save Israel from the hand of the Midianites. Have not I sent thee? So God's saying, go in thy strength, right? I'm sending you, okay, to deliver your people, to save Israel, right? You, Gideon, a man of valor. And Gideon's like, I'm just trying to thresh some wheat here by the winepress, hiding so the Midianites don't come and kill me. I'm not a man of valor. I'm just a poor man from Manasseh, right? I'm just a herdsman of Tekoa, right? He's just got a burden for the word, right? Have not I sent thee? And he said unto him, O Lord, wherewith shall I save Israel? Behold, my family is poor in Manasseh, and I am the least in my father's house. Okay, so he's saying, like, I'm nothing. Like, nobody knows me. I'm the least in my household, let alone in Manasseh, the tribe of Manasseh, let alone in all of Israel. Right? How am I going to save everybody? What am I supposed to do? Right? I'm just Peter Branscombe from Cumberland Bay, New Brunswick. How am I supposed to save Canada? Right? How are you supposed to save your people? Right? And he said unto them, and he said unto him, if now I have found grace in thy sight, then show me a sign that thou talkest with me. Okay, so Gideon's like, this is all crazy to me, but can you show me something to, like, make, you know, like, he's like, can you show me something so I don't feel like I'm crazy? Does that sound familiar? Does that sound familiar? You feel like you're crazy? You feel like you're crazy when you see all the things around you and you know the truth, but you because you're not of any stature or prestige or anything like that, you're like, I just need to know if what I'm thinking is true, what I'm doing is right. Can you just show me something, Lord? Right? And the Lord said unto him, surely I will be with thee, and thou shalt smite the Midianites as one man. Okay? So Gideon's going to be a friggin' boss, God's telling him. And Gideon's like, phew. So the next is, depart not hence, I pray thee, until I come unto thee, and bring forth my present, and set it before thee. And he said, I will tarry until thou come again. So he's talking to the angel here. Right, the angel that was under the oak. And Gideon went in and made ready a kid. Not a kid, a real person kid, but like a lamb. And unleavened cakes, or a calf, or whatever. And unleavened cakes, and an ephah of flour. The flesh he put in a basket, and he put the broth in a pot, and brought it out unto him under the oak, and presented it. And the angel of God said unto him, the angel of God is a messenger, okay? Take the flesh and unleavened cakes, and lay them upon this rock, and pour out the broth. And he did so. Then the angel of the Lord put forth the end of the staff that was in his hand, and touched the flesh and the unleavened cakes. And there rose up fire out of the rock, and consumed the flesh, and the unleavened cakes. Then the angel of the Lord departed out of his sight. So the angel appeared, and the angel actually consumed the flesh and the unleavened cakes. So this is a weird scene to see an angel actually eating. Okay? So, because there's times when angels appear in human form, and there's times when angels appear in non-human form. And when they appear in human form, people are mostly like, something's different about you. I can't quite put my finger on it. But when they show up in their non-human form, in their angelic form, then people are like, oh, I'm dead. Is he gone? Right? Because they're terrifying. Because they look crazy. Right? Any descriptions of them, they don't look like people. Right? They're terrifying. Often, whenever there's an angel that shows up, it says that they fell down as if they were dead. Right? Or they pretended they were dead. Or they, their bowels fell out. Right? They had no strength left in them. Their knees knocked together and they had no strength. So, let's keep going. And when Gideon perceived that he was an angel of the Lord, Gideon said, Alas, O Lord God, for because I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. Alas, O Lord God, for I have seen an angel of the Lord face to face. And the Lord said unto him, Peace be unto thee, fear not, thou shalt not die. Then Gideon, he's going to die eventually, right? But he's talking about the angel of the Lord isn't coming to kill you, right? You're not going to die. Don't worry about it. And this angel showed up, face to face, ate some food, went on his way, right? Then Gideon built an altar there unto the Lord and called it Jehovah Shalom. Jehovah Shalom. Shalom, my friends. Shalom, chat. Unto this day, it is yet in Oprah of the Abiezrites. So this altar, according to when this was written, right, at the time that it was written after, that altar was still there. Is it there today? Probably not. Well, somewheres, but is there a marker to it? Don't know. And it came to pass in the same night that the Lord said unto him, Take thy father's young bullock, even the second bullock of 7 years old, and throw down the altar of Baal that thy father hath, and cut down the grove that is by it. Okay, so his dad has a altar of Baal and has a grove that's beside it, okay? the grove. They worshipped in the groves under the trees. Okay. And they built and build an altar unto the Lord thy God upon the top of this rock in the ordered place, and take the second bullock and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove which thou shalt cut down. Okay, so throw down the altar of Baal. Okay, sacrifice a bullock on the rock in the ordered place, and then take the second bullock and offer a burnt sacrifice with the wood of the grove that you cut down. So don't waste the trees. Use those and build an altar to the Lord, right? Cut down that which was used for evil and use it for good. Then Gideon took 10 men of his servants and did as the Lord had said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, that he did it by night, right? So he was to go and do this, but he had fear of the men, right? He had fear of his father's household, right? And so he couldn't do this in broad daylight. So he was going to do it sneaky at nighttime, even though God had told him, by the angel, oh man of valor, right? By one man you're going to save Israel, right? You won't die, right? And all these things, like, really gave him all this pep talk, right? And here Gideon is he's scared to do it by daytime because he fears his father's household. But is that, you can say, whoa, Gideon, come on, bud. But really, like, isn't that realistic, right? We know that we have a mission that we have to do. We have a job that we have to accomplish. But it doesn't make it easy, does it? You still have that little bit of fear and trepidation, right? Because you don't want to, it's hard to go against the grain. It's hard to do things that that it's one thing to, for us to come and talk in the chats and everything like that to each other and talk about what we think and believe, right? But then it's another to actually put that out there for everybody to see, right? And then it's another thing to actually do it publicly, to carry it out. Okay? I mean, really, how many of us have gone and torn down any of the mask signs or any of the COVID billboards, or, done any of the, how many of us have done anything for the Lord that would, cause hatred to be put upon us by, others in our community? How many of us are willing to do that? And especially during the daytime, are we willing to do that? No, not yet. And nobody's done it yet. Nobody's doing anything. We're not doing anything. The most that I've been doing is what I do here, and going every day and everywhere without wearing a mask, and openly not being jabbed. I'm openly unvaccinated, right? So that's the most that I've done. Nothing easy about destruction of Canada. No, it's not. It's not. It's something that we all, not the destruction of Canada, but it's something that we all know that there's things that we need to do, but we haven't done it yet, right? And what are we waiting for? What are we waiting for? Are we waiting for them to start picking us off? Are we waiting for them to come and start taking children away? Are we waiting for all of us to be out of a job and out of house and home, right? Or is that when we're going to decide to rise up? How low do we have to go before we actually rise up and do something? Okay? And it doesn't have to be violent. This here is not a violent situation. He's not going to kill his father and his father's servants because they have a statue to Baal. No, he's not doing that. He's just going to go and destroy the altar of Baal. He's going to cut down the grove. He's going to cut down the grove that they worship under. He's going to destroy the altar of Baal. What are our altars of Baal today? What are our groves today? All right? That's what we got to start looking at. We got to start casting down these altars of Baal. We got to start cutting down and hewing down these groves, right? We got to start throwing down these gods, casting them down, because they're not worth anything. They can't see, they can't hear, they can't speak, they can't do anything, right? But yet people worship under the altar of Jabbo, right? They worship under the altar of Bill Gates and, Anthony Fauci and, Justin Trudeau, right? A lot of people are turning against this whole narrative, but, are they turning against it because, are they turning against it because they're, offended and it's affected them personally? Are they turning against it because they have a passion to, help their neighbor, to, see that their country is restored? Is it because they are crying out unto the Lord that they're getting upset and want to change things in this country? No, it's because right now, they're still in the phase of, we're upset because now it's affecting me personally, right? But yet we haven't given it to God yet so that God can say, okay, turn back onto me. I'll give you a hand with this. I'll raise you up. I'll make you the strong man or the strong woman that you need to be in order to fight this, right? We're not there yet, are we, collectively? But I would say that this remnant here and remnants throughout the land, we're getting to that point. We're putting that out there, and we're gathering together, and other people are beginning to wise up and get on board. And that's good. That's real good. That's what we need. We need to have allies. And our allies, a lot of them, are going to end up being people that have fallen for this. Because those people will end up being some of the best allies at the end of it, right? Because they're going to come out the gate with a lot of zeal, right? Because we seen this stuff kind of coming afar off, right? These people were caught off guard. Once it's easy to deceive a person, it's hard to tell them that they've been deceived. But if they can wise up to that they were deceived, well, look out. Because I don't know about you, but if I know that someone is, treating me like an arsehole, right? Or treating me like I'm stupid, right? Or, is actually just messing with me. Once I figure that out, it's game time, man. Like, I ain't messing around with that, right? If I don't realize it, then it's whatever, right? I'll just carry on and, live in my stupor, right? But once I find out that you're purposefully lying to me or treating me like a dummy, right? Then I get mad. Then I get real upset. And I get real upset when you're treating other people that I know like they're dummies. And I can see that they don't understand it. Because it's hard to look at people that you know and people that you care about, people that you love, and seeing them be deceived by something, seeing them being taken by something, and then there's nothing that you can do to help them out. You know what I mean? It's hard to look at people be deceived and to know that if you say, hey, you're being deceived, that they're like, you bigot, just take your shot, right? That's really hard. And after a while, you just have to be like, all right, I'm done. You go into like a state of quiet mode, right? And that's kind of where I've been for a while. I've been in this kind of quiet mode where I'm like, I just don't talk about a whole lot to a whole lot of people anymore. But I'm observing. I'm in an observation stage right now where I'm looking at people and seeing people slowly coming around, right? And that's when we can be there to be like, hey, how you doing? Right? We don't have to be like, I told you so. But I'd like to be like that. We all want to be like, I told you so. I've been saying that for years, right? And it's hard to resist that urge, right? Sometimes you guys, Linda, how you doing, darling? Good to see you tonight. Good to see you tonight. It's hard to Sometimes you got to step away. You just got to, right? What did Jesus do before he even started his ministry officially, right? He went off into the wilderness 40 days and 40 nights, right? You need to get away from everything. You need to turn everything off. You need to just shut your own brain off and really clear your mind of things so that you can return with an open mind and a clear head, right? Because when we're all worked up, I don't know about you, but when I get worked up, I get stupid. I just get ornery. I get freaking retarded almost. Like I can't think, can't put thoughts together, can't communicate well, get agitated, get just not really worth much, right? I'm not able to help anybody. I'm barely able to help myself when I get in that kind of state, because you just get so right? Anyways, continuing. Casting down these altars. So Gideon took the men of his servants, and did as the Lord had said unto him. And so it was, because he feared his father's household and the men of the city, that he could not do it by day, but by night. I said that. And when the men of the city arose early in the morning, behold, the altar of Baal was cast down, and the grove was cut down that was by it, and the second bullock was offered upon the altar that was built. And they said one to another, who hath done this thing? Who did this? Right? Everybody's like, what's going on? Murmuring. And when they inquired and asked, they said, Gideon, the son of Joash, hath done this thing. Then the men of the city said unto Joash, bring out thy son, that he may die, because he hath cast down the altar of Baal, and because he hath cut down the grove that was by it. Who here has not gotten a jab? We want to get back to our normal ways and freedoms and debauchery and degeneracy and sports ball. Who here is unjabbed? Then the men of the city said, when they asked, Gideon the son of Joash had done this thing. When they inquired and asked, they said, oh, okay, sorry. So, it's Joash's son. He hasn't gotten jabbed yet. He hasn't gotten his booster. Because he won't get boosted, we're going back into lockdown. Right? Gideon won't get his third booster. So now we got to go back into lockdown. The hospitals are overwhelmed because of Gideon won't get his shot. Okay? That's obviously a light way to put it, because obviously this story is a lot more serious and whatnot. But you get the idea, right? Like, the people are reacting the same way. Okay? Because it's funny that human nature hasn't changed, right? It's the same. It's the sin nature. And it's the nature of mankind to believe that, oh, Gideon did this thing, so we have to kill him. Bring out thy son. He has to die because he did this thing and tore down our altar to Baal, right? Bring out thy son that he may die, because he cast down the altar of Baal and hath cut down the grove that was by it. Right? Was that really that big of a deal? Right? They were brought out of the land of Egypt and brought into the promised land, and now they have the altars of Baal, and now they're mad. They're mad that Gideon cut down the grove, that he broke down the altar of Baal, that thing that God said don't do, don't have any part in the things of the people of the land. And they're going to say, bring your son out that we may kill him because he broke down our fake God's altar and the groves that we worship under. Right? Therefore, on that day, 31. This is good. This is really good. And Joash said unto all that stood against him, will ye plead for Baal? Will ye save him? He that will plead for him, let him be put to death whilst it is yet morning. If he be a god, let him plead for himself, because one hath cast down his altar. So what he's saying is, if Baal is a god, let Baal plead for himself. If Baal is upset that his altar was broken down, well then let Baal deal with it. He's a god, right? So obviously Joash, he's going through the motions of having this altar of Baal and everything like that, right? And it's all the people are so upset by. Do you think he's really going to deliver his son to be killed to this crowd of idiots, right? This crowd of idiots. And he's just saying, listen, if you want us to get all these jabs, and if you want our kids to wear masks all day, well then you come and do it, right? You come and do it, Justin Trudeau. You come and make me. Frig you, make me. I won't say F you, make me tonight. I won't do it. Try not to do that on the streams. Frig you, make me. Baal. Right? If you want me to take this jab, well, you come and administer it to me. You come and give it to me. You come and make me put that mask on. Frig you. Let Baal plead for Baal. Therefore, on that day, he called him Jerubbaal. Jerubbaal. This is Gideon saying, let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar. So Gideon was given the name Jerubbaal, right? And the saying was, let Baal plead against him, because he hath thrown down his altar. Right? Then all the Midianites and the Amalekites and the children of the east were gathered together and went over and pitched in the valley of Jezreel. So back to the story with the Midianites there. So they all pitched their tents in the valley of Jezreel. But the Spirit of the Lord came upon Gideon, and he blew a trumpet, and Abiezer was gathered after him. And he sent messengers throughout all Manasseh, who also was gathered after him. And he sent messengers unto Asher, and unto Zebulun, and unto Naphtali, and they came up to meet them. Right? So that's what we're doing. That's what we're doing here, right? The Spirit of the Lord has come upon us and has put something in us that we can't sit still anymore. We got to start acting. We got to start doing stuff, right? So what are we doing? We went onto the internet, right? And we're going and we're sending out messages to each other. We're talking in chats. We're on Telegram, right? We're going through all the land and we're massing the troops, right? We're gathering allies, right? We're making friends. We're building communities, so to speak. Figuratively, not literally yet, because there's no physical communities yet. But, that's being worked on with relationships, and, impromptu meetings and unofficial meetings and so on and so forth. So he sent messengers unto Asher and unto Zebulun and unto Naphtali, and they came up to meet them, right? So they're getting together now, meeting in person. And Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said, behold, I will put a fleece of wool on the floor, and if the dew be on the fleece only, and it be dry upon all the earth beside, then shall I know that thou wilt save Israel by mine hand, as thou hast said. So this is still all very overwhelming, right? And have you noticed that when we get together and when we talk in the chats and stuff, I don't know if everybody else feels this way, but myself, it gets a little bit overwhelming, right? You get into these chats, you're like, yes, right on. I'm with people that are like-minded and stuff, right? And then it's just all the chats and all the information and people talking and everything like that. And it's kind of like, oh boy, right? It's like it becomes overwhelming, right? Because there's a very large task that's put before you, and you want to make sure that you're doing the right thing. You want to make sure that you're on the right path, right? You want to make sure that God's leading you, right? And then it's not just your own vain deception, right? Or you're just going along with with another groupthink, right? You want to make sure that the decision that you're making is right. So, Gideon saying, I'm going to do this thing. I'm going to put this fleece on the ground. And by the morning, if the dew is on the fleece and then not on the ground around it, then will I know that you are going to deliver Israel by mine hand, right? Because again, Gideon doesn't want to be like rally everybody together and then, walk into battle and then take a spear right to the gut, right? That would be not fun, right? He doesn't want to prop himself up and then not be able to fulfill it, right? How's everybody doing in the chat? I haven't looked at anything for a little bit. Let me just take a look. Plea for bail or plea for bail. Yeah, just it all depends. It depends how quick we boog or not, right? FYMM Linda. Make me you frig. Whoa, what's that? Gietek Nishiwo Vor.red. I don't know what that is. Probably some weird link that takes you to some weird porn site or something. What else we got here? All there is first to come, though. The thought, we are on the right track. This message shall be spoken until the end, their end. Oh, yes. Oh, yes. I love you guys. We love you, Armchair. Back at you, QB. Okay. Good to see you guys are all chatting it up and having a good time. Glad you guys are here. Super happy you guys are here. I love all you guys. And you know what? Like, you guys really bring me out of funk too, right? Like, God brings me out of it and, puts it back into my heart to be like, okay, I got to get back on here and I got to get, reading God's word, and I've got to get putting this message out here and bring this stuff to light, because I don't want people to go into this, right, without God. Because if we go into this battle, this fight, this spiritual battle that we have before us, spiritual, physical, whatever it be, we can't go in it without God. If we do, we will surely lose, right? Because going without God is what has gotten us here in the first place. And none of us can deny that, I can't speak for everybody in the chat. I don't know how old you are or where you are in life or where you've been in your life and stuff like that. But I know in my life that God has directed me to this very point that I'm in. And it certainly wasn't by my hand that I'm where I'm at, because, a lot of times, I was basically walking with a blindfold on, right? Not really knowing. And most of the times when I was trying to do what I thought was right, it usually ended up being wrong, or it usually ended up later on down the road thinking about it and being like, that was stupid, right? Or there's things that where you think, oh yeah, this God did this way, and then later on you're like, no, actually God was doing it this way, and I just didn't even realize it, right? I thought what I was doing was this, but God was actually showing me something completely different, right? And it's funny. It's like, that saying too, if you want to hear God laugh, tell him your plans, right? Well, I believe that 100%, right? Like, I've had lots of plans. Most of them don't happen. And if they do, they don't happen the way I think they're going to happen. They usually happen, but on God's timing and how he wants them to happen. And in that way, God gets the glory. I don't get the glory. God gets the glory, right? Because they worked out everything how I thought they would work out. Well, I would have a swollen head and puffed up ego, and, I wouldn't be humble, and basically I would end up destroying myself, right? Because, ego, my ego gets in the way, egos, we all have them. And, mine could get pretty big by times. So, and Gideon said unto God, is that where I was? Yeah, so he sent all the messengers. And Gideon said unto God, if thou wilt save Israel by my hand, as thou hast said, right? And he says about the fleece. And it was so, for he rose up early on the morrow and thrust the fleece together and wringed the dew out of the fleece, a bowl full of water, right? So he took the fleece, wrung it out, and a bowl of water basically came out of it from all the dew, right? And Gideon said unto God, let not thine anger be hot against me. Okay, so Gideon's like, okay, all right, it's full of water, but maybe maybe it was because of this, or because the moon was high, or because the humidity was down. Like maybe it was but don't be mad against me, God. I just want to speak, but this once. Just gonna ask something. Let me prove, I pray thee. But this once with the fleece, let it now be dry only upon the fleece, and upon all the ground let there be dew. Right? So Gideon's gonna like, okay, you did this, but I'd like you to do this now to really show me that what you're saying is true, right? Because again, he's having a hard time with this, right? As you would, right? As you would if an angel showed up and said, you're gonna, man of valor, right? Who's threshing wheat behind a winepress, hiding from the enemy, right? You're gonna save Israel, right? So that's a lot for a poor boy, least of his house and of Manasseh, to be thrust upon him, right? He doesn't have that confidence, right? But then once he did the thing with the Baal, with the altar of Baal, it says that the Spirit of the Lord came upon him, right? And he gathered up men and messengers and sent them out throughout the land. So now he does this dew the other way. So now instead of the dew being upon the fleece, now he wants the dew to be on the ground and the fleece to be dry. And God did so that night. For it was dry upon the fleece only, and there was dew on all the ground. It's 1:06 a.m. 1:06 a.m. Chapter 7 is when we get into all the stuff. I can't do it. I want to do it, but it's going to be at least another hour plus, because this gets real serious. Okay? Like, we're just kind of going through the preamble of everything. When Gideon gets to the point, okay, where he's like, okay, God, I'm going to do this thing, okay? Even right up to the very point of going against the Midianites, he still has questions and is worried, right? And but once everything happens, like, Gideon goes on the warpath. Gideon is soldier of the Lord. The stream is titled "A Sword, the Sword of the Lord and of Gideon," and you'll see why. I'm not going to finish the stream. I'm not going to read chapters. I'm going to finish the stream. I'm not going to read chapter 7 tonight, because this is where it gets really good, and this is where it gets boob time. Okay, this is where it gets serious. All right. This is where Gideon, okay, within this chapter, goes from being a boy to being a man's man. Okay. Some real serious stuff. Okay. Once he lets loose, he lets her go. Right. And time and time again in the Old Testament, in the book of Judges, that's what you see. When you read about David, when you read about, King Asa, when you read about these different men of God in the Old Testament, where the Spirit of the Lord came upon them, Samson. And I'm telling you, these guys, they took their enemies to task, and God told them to do so. And God didn't hold anything against them either. They had a task to do, and they were to fulfill it. Joshua, again, with coming into the promised land, you're to utterly destroy the inhabitants of the land, right? Because again, if Israel did evil in the sight of the Lord, and God brought these oppressors upon them, are these oppressors good people? Well, no, because what does it say that they were doing? They were coming to destroy the land, to rape and pillage, right? So He's bringing worse people to afflict his people. And that's what he's done over and over again. God's people, he will use worse people to afflict them, right? Because they left God, left off of loving their Lord God with all their mind, heart, and soul, right? Following after him. They left off from him to follow after the nations and follow after the gods of the land, the gods of the mountains, the gods of the valleys, the gods of the seas, the gods, whatever. They left off of their God to follow the ways of destruction. They left off of their God that led them out of the house of bondage and delivered them into the promised land. Okay? So when you turn your back on God, well, then God's going to turn his back on you. God doesn't just turn his back on you because, he's God and he can do that. He does it because you have hidden your face from him, so he will hide his face from you. But when you call out to the Lord, well, then he will hear your cry and he will answer you and he will deliver you of your enemies, right? If you are righteous and of his remnant, then he will deliver you, right? No weapon that the enemy forms against us shall prosper, right? There gets to a point, though, collectively, as happened with the children of Israel and of the northern kingdom, and then of the southern kingdom later on, Judah and Benjamin, right? The northern kingdom was completely wiped out and interbred by the Assyrians, and then Judah and Benjamin, well, they were carried off into Babylon, destroyed that way. Why? Because collectively, they had gone too far. Too many times they had done evil in the sight of the Lord and did not repent of their ways and didn't continue in the ways of God. Okay? So after a while, God says, all right, it's time to clear the board, right? Take checkerboard and just clear everything off it. Clear all the pieces off of it. We're going to start over again, right? But even when he destroyed the northern kingdoms, even when he carried off Judah and Benjamin to Babylon, there still was a remnant, right? Because not everybody perished by the hand of the Babylonians, but many were carried off into Babylon. They lived under Babylonian rule, okay? And then after Babylon, then who were the rulers? Then it was the Persians and the Medes, right? Then they were the ones that afflicted them, right? They had to serve under that group of people. Well, then what was the empire after the Persia Medes? Well, then it was the Grecian Empire. Still, God's people still remained. Then after the Grecian Empire, then it was the Roman Empire, which is still, they're still around today, guys. Okay? The Roman Empire. Okay? But still, there's a remnant in the undercurrent. Okay? God's people, there's always a remnant. He will always preserve a remnant to the very end. In fact, when Jesus returns, if he didn't return, well, then there would be no flesh saved alive, right? Because what does it say? When the devil's cast down the earth, he knows that he has very little time. Okay? And what does he do? He goes out to persecute the remnant, God's people. That's what he does. He thinks that he's going to win the battle, but he's going to be cut short, right? He's going to be cut off. Just as Jesus Christ, right, the man-child that was born of the woman, right? He was meant to be king to rule with a rod of iron, but life was cut short and he was caught up to heaven, to the throne of his Father. But one day he's going to return. Satan, when he's cast to earth, well, his time's going to be short. Why? Because he doesn't own anything. He doesn't own the kingdoms of this world. Remember, he offered, Lee, you mentioned this there on Sunday sermon, right? He offered Jesus, hey, if you'll, took him up to a large mountain. First, what do you do? Hey, turn these stones into bread if you're You're hungry, right? And then it was, see that he took him to the top of the pinnacle of the temple and said, hey, jump off the temple here, and see if there will be angels that will come and rescue you, right? If you're, if you are what you say you are, then surely, the angels will save you from dashing your foot on the stone. And then thirdly, he takes him, looks over the kingdoms of all the earth and says, you bow down and worship at my feet, and I'll give you the kingdoms of this world, right? Because Satan is the god of this world, right? He's the prince of the power of the air. But they aren't his kingdoms to give, are they? Right? They're the kingdom. This world is God's footstool. And his son is going to be king one day. He's going to return, and he's going to rule the nations with a rod of iron, right? And they're going to be angry when he returns. They're going to be very upset when he returns, because all their plans, all their schemes, all their conspiracy is going to be brought to naught. They're going to be given power 1 hour to rule with the Antichrist. That's how short his kingdom is. Right? Pretty awesome. But there's a lot of tribulation to go through before we get there. There's a lot of stuff that's going to take place. How many of us will make it through to the end, right? Blessed is he that makes it to the end of those days, right? I sure hope that I'm privileged to get there, right? At the return of our Lord and Savior. How awesome would that be, right? But we don't know where exactly we are in the timeline until that man of sin is revealed. Because there is going to be a man that is going to be the Antichrist. He's not going to be anti-God, right? But he's going to sit in the temple of God, claiming that he is God, right? He's going to look like a lamb, but he's going to speak like a dragon, right? He's going to be that person that Jesus said to the Jews. He said, I come in my name and you reject me. But when another comes in my name, you will accept, right? But anyways, Crystal Jean, how are you doing? Good to see you. Wilford Witzke, good to see you, buddy. Linda, how you doing now? Kale Schnell, yo, am I late? Yes, you are, Kale. It's okay. You can check it out after once it gets posted onto the channel. I'm just finishing up chapter 6 of Judges, talking about Gideon. Sword of the Lord and of Gideon. That's what we're talking about. And the Bible doesn't have to be complicated. It can be. It can be hard to follow. There's lots of names. There's lots of places. There's lots of things that you never heard about before. But once you kind of get past that and you look at these stories and what's going on in them, you can say, jumping, that's softly, reminiscent to what we're seeing today, right? On different scales, right? And we're going to get to chapter 7 this next stream that's going to be coming up. I'll do it sooner than later. And we can go through what Gideon does to go to battle against the Midianites and how he chooses his men, how God has him choose his men. The story of 300, okay? Gideon and his 300 chosen. That's the true story of 300. God's 300, right? He had like 24,000 men. God's like, that's too many, right? But I got to leave it at that, because if I keep on talking, I'll just end up reading chapter 7, and then we'll be here till 3 o'clock in the morning. And I got to work in the morning. I got to work. Spiritual whores. Yes, many whores out there. Whores. They're all whores. What's that, Happy Gilmore? I visited a prostitute one time in World War II, and she's never let me forget about it. Whores. They're all whores. Book of Jeremiah on Babylon. Jeremiah was known as the crying prophet, and the Lamentations of Jeremiah. He spent 40 years preaching in the desolations of Jerusalem about Babylon being sent to destroy them. How hard of a task would that have been? We think that we get tired out from, what we're trying to say and everything like that, and trying to tell people the truth. Well, Jeremiah spent 40 years trying to tell people, like, God's going to bring judgment on us here, right? God's going to bring judgment. Thoughts on the falling away. Falling away? The falling away, I think, is going to... I think the falling away is going to take place, to be honest with you, when basically this mass calling takes place, and a third of the world's population is killed. And that's going to seem like we're in the Great Tribulation. It's going to be tribulation, but it's going to seem like the Great Tribulation, right? When really that's just the build-up to it. And I think that's going to be when the falling away has been happening, so to speak, but you can see by the children of Israel that they had falling aways too, right? But then they went back to God, right? The falling away, I think, is going to happen when all this stuff, these sorrows come upon the earth, and the rapture doesn't take place as many Western Christians and whatnot believe is to take place at the time that they think it's going to take place. And when the man of sin, or the hero, right, so to speak, comes upon the scene, and basically all these truths start being revealed, and all this technology and stuff starts coming out, it's going to lead people to fall away, right? The rapture not taking place when a lot of people think it's going to happen, that's going to be part of the falling away. People dying en masse, and, God not, seemingly not coming to help us, kind of thing, right? That's going to affect a lot of people's faith, right? Two witnesses come first, though. Two witnesses, they're kicking around when the man of sin is around. Two witnesses, they're pretty interesting story there in the book of Revelation, the two witnesses. Got to get into that another night, though. The falling away will happen as the man of sin is being kind of propped up and the world is going in that direction. I think of Albert Pike's Third World War, the letters to Mazzini, when it says that we'll unleash the nihilists and the atheists, and it'll be Zionism versus Islam, and it'll be, communism versus Western Christianity, and, the destroyers of civilization, when basically the collective of the general collective rises up to defeat these destroyers of civilization, that at the end of all that, basically their whole religious compass and moral compass and thoughts on what's supposed to happen is going to be shattered at that point in time, because that's going to be the mass kill off when everybody's killing one another, and that's going to leave a vacuum where there's going to be somebody that's going to come and fill that vacuum, and they're going to bring in the pure doctrine of Lucifer, and that there is how they are going to get people to fall away, because Lucifer means light bearer, right? And don't be mistaken, don't be tricked or worried that understand that Satan can turn himself into an angel of light, and so too he can transform his ministers onto ministers of light, right? So I think that all has something to do with it. I think that's all part of the falling away. Jeebers, Gary, I really went in on that question, but I still feel like I didn't answer it very well. Lee Stewie, when is chapter 7? Chapter 7, it's Thursday. I'll try to do it this weekend. I'm going to try to do it this weekend. That's what a lot of awake people don't quite get. This is biblical fulfillment. Yes, it's biblical fulfillment, and part of the enemy's plan is to act like, basically put the cart before the horse, right? They want to pretend they're fulfilling biblical prophecy when really we're ending up leading to the fulfillment of biblical prophecy. This is all part of biblical prophecy, but they want to pose basically a pre-fulfillment, right? And that, I believe, is part of the falling away, the great deception, right? See what else we got here. Prophecy, little old man's take down these tyrants in Jesus' name. Anyone have any theories on who the two witnesses are? That's a good question. Are they people? Are they groups of people? Is it Moses? Is it Elijah? Is it Enoch? Some people say. I would almost say it's Moses and Elijah, because when Jesus is first on the Mount of Transfiguration, when he first appears to them, he has with him Moses and Elijah, right? And then it also says that the same Jesus that you've seen, going up, he's going to return in the same manner. And I think that is possibly Moses and Elijah. Elijah was carried off in a chariot of fire, never seen death. And Moses, there's that whole that verse that says that Michael disputed with the devil over Moses' body. It's a strange thing. I can't I don't quite know, but it's going to be men of God. It's going to be men of God for sure. And I think it's two men in particular. I don't think it's a group of people. I think it's two specific individuals. Tribulation started September 23rd, 2017 with the great sign in the heavens. Great sign in the heavens. Is that blood moon? Blood moons are you getting on? There's something to the blood moons, but it's not the blood moon, right? When the sun is darkened like wool, right, and the moon turns to blood. That's a different sign. That's going to be a real sign in heaven. But I think 2017 2017 2019, I'm not going to get into the numbers here right now, but we're definitely in the ballpark. We're definitely in the ballpark. Falling away is done. The witnesses has come out of her, my people. The church told her flocks to take the mark. The church, yeah. Well, that's it. Babylon, right? Before Babylon falls, God says, "Come out of her, my people, and be not a partaker in her plagues," right? And that's, I've been saying that for a couple of years, where we have to come out of the Babylonian system that we're in. We have to come out of the Babylonian church, right? We have to come out of this whole worldly system, because we're going to be kicked out of it one way or the other. So we might as well come out of it now before God sends judgment on it, right? Don't be a partaker in her plagues. Raging Dissident 2? I'm rusting. Welcome, Raging Dissident. That's good to see you there, man. Good to see you. I had a weird dream last night where me, for some reason, Matt, and Raging Dissident, I don't know who else, I think it was somebody random, and we were driving around in this pickup truck one night and getting into all kinds of shenanigans. It was a really stupid dream. So it's funny that you're in the chat tonight. Good to see you. You blew my cover, or did I? Well, Raging Dissident, you're a what are you? You're a Jesuit captain anyway, so you're a Jesuit commander. It's 1:30 though, guys. I'm gonna head off to bedo. I'm glad everybody came out tonight. I'm gonna do chapter 7 of Judges here on tomorrow night or Saturday. Tomorrow night's gonna be a storm. The storm of the year, right? Everybody, I was out to the superstore, and the woman said that the lineups were all the way back to the friggin' freezers, both the self-checkout and the regular aisles, right? Because there's a storm coming tomorrow, so everybody's terrified and everybody's going out to buy food and stuff, right? I drove last Friday home in a storm, man, and it was friggin' crazy. All I could see the whole drive, drove home from Sackville to Sussex. So that's about an hour and 35, 40 minutes, maybe. 30, hour 30, let's say. And it was snowing so bad and the wind was blowing so bad. That's what made it the worst, that I could literally only see just above like the hood of my truck, the tire tracks in front of me. Like as far as like the reflectors on the side of the road and whatnot, you could just see like the one just, so many feet in front of you, and then you couldn't see anything else. You'd have big gusts of wind coming across the truck, but you basically pretty much have to stop in the friggin' highway just so you could see where the road was again, because everything would just disappear. I literally was driving and there was a truck that, with the trailer that hauls the cars and stuff, and it was literally in between the two highways with a tow truck on the side of the road, and it just appeared. All those lights, it just appeared, almost drove right off into the friggin' tow truck, right? Because if someone was off the road and you're kind of seeing lights and you're kind of following those lights, you like pretty much go right up on their butt, right? But luckily there wasn't a whole lot of people out on the highway. And my windshield wipers, they came apart that day, of course. So the windshield wiper in front of me, like it was literally like flapping the wiper all over the place. So I had to zip tie it, and that kind of worked for me. But it was a long drive home, and it was a slow drive. There'd be people that'd be driving in front of you, and then after so long, they would just be like, heck with this, or whatever, right? And they'd pull off. They literally pull off to the side of the road to get off the road for a bit, and then, because they didn't want to lead anymore, right? Because literally, you couldn't see anything in front of you. But, in fact, when I got to Sussex, the exit that I took, I didn't even mean to take it. I literally, there was a friggin' truck. Do I have a Telegram channel going? Yeah, I do, but I haven't added anybody to it or even tried to do anything with it, because I still don't really know how to use Telegram except for to go on to the boards that I am on and then, look at stuff or maybe say a comment every once in a while. But I do have a Telegram. I don't know what's called yet right now. The last Branscombe. I don't even know what it is, to be honest with you. I'll have to check that out and maybe put like a link up or something. So anyways, I'm driving. There's a plow there's hardly any plows on the road. There's hardly anybody on the highway. And there was a plow that looked like he was pulled off to the left side of the road. And when you're coming into Sussex, it gets pretty open. And so the wind that was coming across there, the visibility was real bad. And I'm looking to take the next exit to go to my place. And instead, I'm going down the off ramp by the Four Corners Irving. And I'm like, whew, well, that was close. I didn't even know it. I thought I was still on the highway. And then I realized that I'm literally going on the off ramp. That's how bad the visibility was. How I didn't run into the freaking guardrail and freaking roll the whole thing is another story altogether. But pretty wild. So tomorrow's supposed to be a storm too, and I'm only going to Salisbury, but I don't think it's starting until later. So not a big deal. Telegram is for Fed posting until Feds call you in to be interrogated. Get on my level, Peter. Yeah, what's that about? You were interrogated today? Like they showed up to your place, or like they called you and, Jeremy, you're saying mean, bigoted things on the internet and we don't like it. Get the vaccine. Is that what they were doing? How did that work? Did they literally show up to your house? Year of the Tigers now. Watch. I pet goat differently now. Ah, yes. I pet goat. I pet goat 2? Because there was no real I pet goat 1, was there? I pet goat 2 is a freaking crazy show. Crazy little 7-minute video that every time you watch it, you notice more things as time goes on, right? And it tells the whole thing, It shows the Antichrist being birthed out of the giant vagina, right? And it shows the boy that's being tormented by the snake there inside of his head. And then what happens, right? After all this torment and stuff like that, and he's in the fetal position on the ground, and once, the Antichrist comes out of his birth, then that snake monitor thing crawls away, and then what does the boy do? He gets up and his skull's cracked open, but now his eyes are open and he can see now, and he's ready to go and serve the dude. That's how I look at it. That's how I seen it. What was it? A little from column A, a little from column B. I pet goat was weird as hell. Yes, it was. I felt like it was doing something to me. It is. It's totally doing something to you. Canadian production. Yeah, it was. Lefebvre. He was on Alex Jones when that came out, like however many years ago it was now. And on that, he talked about it as if that was the birthing of the it was a good thing. It was a good message, right? It was the destruction of the old order and the bringing about of the new world light order, right? This new spiritual age, right? Basically the whole age of Aquarius kind of mantra. That's what he was saying. That's what his take was. And then a lot of people were saying that he wasn't actually the guy who made it, that, that interview was sus, and that it wasn't actually his work, and that he was just basically taking claim for it. And then there's that new, there's the new I Pet Goat, I Pet Goat 3, or I Pet Goat Too Much. Maggie Trudeau's box. Yes, that is where he's birthed out of. Witchcraft is real, folks. The cunt or chirk is a real evil scam. Well, a lot of those old cathedrals were built specifically to look like you're entering a giant vagina in those doors. That's true, right? And why do they have the giant phallus pinnacles, right? What are they? They're giant phalluses. It's always about that, right? It's always about giant penises and giant vaginas. I love that stuff. It's all about Tubal Cain, old Tubal Cain, right? Hey, Raging Distant, how do you like my my basement? I don't have the boiler in the background, but it's cozy. It's cozy. I got my vegetables. I got all my canned goods down here, everybody. I got my potatoes, I got my squash, got my zooks, spaghetti squash, I got beets, and got spaghetti sauce, and beans and carrots and pickles and sauerkraut, and yeah, got my weights. Stuff to do down here. I've made it my home. Maggie still is being paid for showing. Ew. Ooh. Ooh. I seen what East Coast Canadian. He put that compilation together there with the bigot goggles, with all the pictures of with the bigot goggle or without the bigot goggles and with the bigot goggles, and there was like one that got me really bad, and that was what's the finance minister now, the deputy prime minister. It showed her, and then it showed a grilled cheese sandwich. I don't know if that's what it meant, but it was a nasty image to have in one's head, right? Thanks, Matt. Thanks for the great work. Thanks for those bigot goggles. I can't unsee it now. I'll never unsee that again. It'll always be there. I had a dream like that one time when I was younger. It was like a similar thing to the grilled cheese thing. And that image stuck in my head for years. And I was scared of vaginas for a long time. No, just kidding. But all right, we're devolving into degeneracy here now, aren't we? It's 1:40. It's 1:40. I got to get going. Thanks everybody for coming out. This was an impromptu stream, so everybody that showed up, awesome. Thanks for coming out. Happy to have you, and I'll get this other one going. It won't be tomorrow night because if there's a storm, then I'm not going to have an internet connection, so there's no point of trying. So we might as well say that I'll try for Saturday night, and then you can see on Sunday I'll be with East Coast Canadian on the Sunday morning sermon. So God bless everybody. Have yourself a good night. Peace out. Now I'm going to awkwardly look how to end. Let's say goodnight to everybody. Let's say goodnight to everybody. Shabugala, have a good night, brother. Lee Stewie, have a great night, lady. Good to have you here. Raging Dissident too. Good to have you here, man. Like I say, good to see you. Wasn't expecting the offload from the East Coast Canadian Super Conspiracy Thursday to show up here, so that's pretty awesome. Thanks for coming out. Timothy Harker, don't know you. Thanks for coming out. Take easy, make nice. Yes. Armchair, you have yourself a good night, bro. Camo, later, brother. Gary Galuska, thanks for coming out. Cameron Gervais, good to see you. Crystal Jean, welcome. Good to have you here tonight. And many others who have showed up and come and gone. Thanks for coming out. Everybody, have yourselves a good night. Take care. Peace out. Ending the stream now.